So, it looks like, from all appearances, Liz Truss has done what we call a runner, shall we say, from the media. And there's two schools of thought when it comes to this as to why she's done this. And we'll go into those two schools of thoughts. But those, just to let you know what's been going on, just to give you a bit of background information. Essentially, as you all know, Liz Truss is probably going to be our next Prime Minister. It's a terrifying thought, but that's the crazy situation that our party is in, that it's about to put Liz Truss in that position. And to be fair, there are some Tories who are going, oh my God, we're about to make Liz Truss Prime Minister. What the hell are you doing, guys? But of course, this was foreseen long ago. And if you've been part of any of my Good Morning walks, you know we've been predicting what the outcome of this race would be for quite some time. So this is where we come into the odd things, because there have been two very big sort of media appearances that Liz Truss has been scheduled to go on. Namely, of course, the big one by the BBC, called Meet Your Next Prime Minister, that was going to be like a one-on-one hour interview. One with just Rishi Sunak and the interviewer, and then one with Liz Truss and the interviewer. And essentially what's happened is that Liz Truss has completely pulled out of that. She also seems to, I think, have maybe pulled out of another interview. I'm not sure if it's the same one. I couldn't find out if it was the same one or not. But it was a very apparently similar format. So why has she done this? Well, there are two types, really, of interviews that MPs get pulled into. First is, there is something going on and you as an MP get dispatched by your party or asked to come in and sort of, give the party peace, so to say. And that's a bit easy for MPs to prepare for, because they sort of know what questions they're going to be asked very roughly, and they can prepare for it. They know what questions they're going to be asked, so they can at least, formulate their answers. The second type of interview, which Liz Truss had been asked to, was, it's going to be an hour sit down, you and me. You don't know what questions the interviewer is going to be asking. And that is why Liz Truss, I think, seems to have jumped from these interviews. Or at least that goes into one of the theories. Because Liz Truss is not good in these types of interviews. We've talked about Liz Truss doing or saying something stupid. Well, that would be going on in one of these types of interviews. So it is very, very, very likely that is why she is pulled out of this interview. So that's a bit of background info for you. So what are these two schools of thought? Well, we'll go into the first one. And that is, of course, is that Liz Truss is so bad at these types of interviews. They are worried that this would set her off in a very, very bad precedent, because it's too late now. It's far, far too late, really, to anything to come in and I think really affect the polls. She's won this hands down, no problem. But it would be a very, very embarrassing start, shall we say, for a potential future Prime Minister to come in, give an awful interview about all these crises that she's going to be expecting to have answers for, and essentially have no answers for, because Liz Truss is not prepared for this type of scenario situation. This is why a lot of people are saying, especially the anti-Liz Trussians, I suppose the best way to call them that, is that she is not prepared. She is going to absolutely implode when she becomes Prime Minister. And as I've said, it all comes to a head in November. So that's the first school of thought as to why she has done this. But I think that sets her off in a very bad light, because any political party, any political leader needs to make use of the media because it helps you craft the narrative and helps you set the story of what it is you are doing and what your agenda is going to be. So the fact that she is run from the media in this type of example does not set a very good precedent for her, because those, shall we say, prime ministers or even people in political power who tend to run from the media tend, well, not to have too long political careers, shall we say, which we can only hope for. And of course, now we come into the second school of thought. So the second school of thought is that basically, and to be honest, it's a very sort of pro-Truss side, and one that you've seen certainly people on the right wing try to foster, is that in reality, Liz Truss has already won. They know it. We know it. She's already won. They don't need these interviews to get these last couple of votes in. They don't need them. So why do them in the first place? And they may be right in that respect. So that could be certainly the case. And I think that there's also a case maybe feeding to sort of the second school of thought that they know that she's not going to do that well either. So it would set a bad precedent. So that's why the more, shall we say, spreading the news really that Liz doesn't need these interviews. Pish. She doesn't need to do these interviews. Anything more than this is just overkill at this point. Because as I've said it, when we see the results on Monday, it's not going to be close. It is not going to be close at all. But yes, so that's the situation we're in. We've got a prime minister who is absolutely awful at these types of interviews, would have probably done something or said something incredibly stupid. She doesn't really have any plans to sort out the current crises, which ultimately is what she was going to be asked about. If you're going to be prime minister, well, what do you do about the energy crisis? What do you do about the cost of living crisis? What do you do about inflation? And of course, as we've been laying out for at least the past month, Truss hasn't got a plan for any of this. She's got absolutely no plans whatsoever. In fact, even the Tory party has run out of runway on this. And I think they are going to go, especially in the next 2 years, into a very, very bad place. And a lot of people are saying, oh, there's going to be an early general election. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. The Tories ain't going to give up the fact that they have so much power, knowing that they could go into a next general election and essentially just lose it all. So, with that said, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.